That's fine.
Welcome to the Gritty Hour. I have a very special guest today. I have Mr. Travis Davis, who is a retired military, and he's the author of a book called Cobalt, The Rise and Fall of the Great Reset. He's also the author of Flames of Deception, two fiction novels that I highly recommend to you. And number one, I want to thank you for your service to our country, Mr. Davis. And number
Thank you very
two,
much.
welcome to the Gritty Hour.
Man, I don't know which one I want to thank better. Thank you for having me on the Gritty Hour. Or thanks for
Well,
my service. But no,
I appreciate
it.
both. So,
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
so I was reading up a little bit on your last book, Cobalt: The Rise and Fall of the Great Reset, which just came out a couple of months ago, correct?
That's correct.
And the thing that came to my mind was 10 years ago. That would have the synopsis of the book would have seemed sort of outlandish, but nowadays I'm not so sure. So,
yeah.
So just to start us off, tell us a little bit about the new book. We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so Cobalt, Rise and Fall of the Great Reset. It's my second book, and it's the second book of what I call Team Texarkana. And Team Texarkana comprises some folks from the National Geospatial Agency, CIA, NSA, and things, and they create a team in the first book, and now they carry it through. So it's basically about, there is this group of globalist, elitist, billionaires called the World Energy Revolutionary Group. And their leader, Klaus Berger, lives on Lake Como. And his second in command is an ex-CIA director, assistant chief of staff of the Army, got embroiled in a money laundering scheme and was exposed. Now, because he has such deep tentacles in Washington and the government, he was not prosecuted at all. He was just went off into the wind.
Right.
And he has kind of the military function of the World Energy Revolutionary Group. And they got together, some others from, Great Britain and the United States, and some other globalists or billionaires. And there's a little based on the ESG scoring, right? And also some rogue Chinese government and military officials. And China, if the book kind of starts, China discovers a rare form of cobalt in the Congo. And it's in a meteor crater. And what that allows them to do is miniaturize solar batteries, extend the life of them, how long they can run. But then again, at the same time, they also put a filament or a coating on their Type 99 tanks where they become the solar collectors. And those tanks can run almost forever on solar energy. And they reduce the crew from 4 to 2 and some other things. And they get in cahoots with Klaus, who at the same time has the goal of, based on climate change, to kind of take down the United States from within by buying up land, farms with China, with ranches, with energy companies, with all this together, because now is the time for the Great Reset.
It sounds so far-fetched, he said sarcastically.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know how. First of all, do you mind if I share your publisher page? I just want to show folks the book itself, and there's another book that I want to talk about that you wrote as well. But this is the book in question that we're discussing now: Cobalt: The Rise and Fall of the Great Reset. Now, I don't know if you want to delve into your military service, but I will ask you. Did your military service or your experience, let's say, play a part in the development of the book?
I think it does. It helps with the character development. And in the Army, I was what they call a CAV scout, or armored reconnaissance specialist. And when I was what I did was mainly patrol the East-West German border and, watch the East Germans, what they were doing. They were watching us. And then I also had some experience as an aerial observer in OH-58, and I've been in tanks and Bradleys and Humvees and all sorts of things. So yeah, it did help me build the characters up. Did a lot of research for the books. I do a lot, and I put a lot of technology in there. And I was talking to somebody doing a book signing. He goes, "Oh, so you're like the old Tom Clancy,
That's
right?"
what came to my mind as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so the older Tom Clancy, where the technology was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," and
Yeah.
because if I did the jobs, this is what I would want the technology to do. And
Right.
I also carry the technology forward in the books, and I enhance it. So I want to keep that kind of momentum going. But yeah, I think the military does. It definitely helped out quite a bit.
Somewhere, somebody's reading this book and seeing how far away we are from that technology that you advanced.
Yes, we're not probably not too far,
So
or we already have it.
I'm going to guess there's a main protagonist, a main antagonist, without giving too much away.
In this one there is. In this one,
Yeah.
the Klaus Berger is probably the main one.
Hmm.
He's a psychopath, but he's a
Uh-huh.
psychopath with billions of dollars.
Hmm.
Megalomaniac. Um,
And he's
and
the
he
antagonist, right?
yeah, he's the antagonist. The protagonist is probably it's a group called the Team Texarkana is
Hmm.
probably the group. But and Mary. So Mary's a new character I introduced in here who's a CIA agent, and she is tough as nails. But unique, what's unique about Mary is she is also a culinary trained chef by the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America.
Hmm.
So on her business cards, she has CIA squared. And she is a trained assassin, and her method of incapacitating and killing is food poisoning
Ah.
that is untraceable by any modern forensic ability right now.
Hmm. Where are you physically located, Trevor?
I live north of
Travis.
Dallas. I live
Okay.
north of Dallas in a little town called
I'm in
Allen.
the Hudson Valley region of New York, and it's funny because I'm like less than 5 minutes away from the Culinary Institute.
Yeah. I used to live in Rome, New York when I was a kid.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure did.
When did you serve in the military?
I served from 1976 to 1995.
Oh,
Joined the Army. I quit high school in the 11th grade on a 6 weeks in the 11th grade on a Friday. And Tuesday I was in basic training,
wow.
17 years old.
And you made yourself a decent career out of it.
Yeah, I did. And I actually graduated high school before I would have graduated. And I was going to graduate my 11th year, but I got my GED 2 months before I really would have graduated. So
Okay.
I and then did some colleges and stuff. But yeah, I've been around a few places.
So you were talking about the characters in this book. Are they brought forth from the previous book, which is called Flames of Deception?
Yeah, just the team, Tex, Will, and Kim
Uh-huh.
are really brought forward in that.
Okay. Let me just get that book up and
Yeah.
in front of us here. So this is Flames of Deception.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be the general synopsis in this one?
So it's kind of interesting. So I wrote this book in 6 weeks,
Wow.
and I had an idea. And I said, man, I watch a lot of TV and news and what's going on in the world. And I said, wow, what about this premise? So I called a friend of mine who I'd known since he was a first lieutenant in the Army, who just retired recently as a colonel. And I called him. I said, hey, Scott, what do you think about this premise? He goes, man, that is pretty cool. So basically, what happens is Russia has known about something in their oil fields for 21 years, and it's a secret. But it has to be reviewed every so often. And one day, some imagery intelligence analysts at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, uh, Will, who's one of the main characters, noticed some oddities in the oil field. Flare stacks weren't burning, pump jacks weren't working, but not just one, but an entire field in the Western Sierra, Siberia oil field. So he asked his kind of co-worker, Kim, you get some eyes on it. He wants her uh, perception of what's going on. So what they uncover is the best kept secret since the Trojan horse. It is they travel to Russia. Kim, Tex, and Will, they have to go to Russia to see exactly what's going on. So they go from the oil fields, they go from the terminals, the refineries, everything to figure out what's going on with the oil industry in Russia. And they really can't. At the same time, China because they own the technology and the solar and all this green energy from the software to the hardware. Is they're actually looking at doing pinpointed outages, and they test it in Northern Virginia, and nobody can detect it through
Hmm.
all of the threat analysis and signatures of any type of anomalies or cyber warfare that cannot be detected because it's in the firmware of the software,
Hmm.
and they update it, and we know they update it, and they check it, but it gets through because it's always been in there. And so it basically culminates in potentially World War III because the Russians want something, it's theirs, they want it back, and they'll do anything to do it. And the Chinese are with them, and the Indians are in it with them also.
Oh, I can't imagine India and China working together on anything.
Yeah, I put in the book that they kind of over the Kashmir region, right? They're fighting up there. They've always been
Right.
fighting, but they came to a truce because they have now more of a common enemy, which is the United States. India has revitalized their military. They have a brand new aircraft carrier with jets and drones, and they want to test it out and be part of a new axis.
So some of the characters that you developed for Flames of Deception got carried over into the
Oh yeah,
new book. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So it's
Will
kind of like a.
Kim, yeah,
I'm trying
Tex,
to think of Clancy's character. What's his name? Ryan.
Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan. Is it something like
Mm-hmm.
that? Where the same guy?
It's the same guy, the same team, but all three of them, Tex, Will, and Kim, have all different specialties. Will comes across as being a knucklehead, but he is super intelligent. And I introduced a new character in Flame Deception, Lucy, who is a Chinese soldier,
Hmm.
um, but she is her memory is out of this world. She's very intelligent, and she's got some loyalty, and it comes out
Hmm.
in the book.
So you have pretty long career in the army.
Mm-hmm.
Did that breadth of experience what should I say present itself in the development of the stories?
It does because of the reconnaissance ability, right? Working with different forms of intelligence to be able to determine what's going on in the world. This one, that I introduce technology called Toth. It's a satellite and software attached to that satellite, but it uses Newton's second law of physics principle of the software can tell how much something weighs by the forces exerting on the ground, and also because it's having to do with oil and oil wells and pipelines, you know, and these pipelines are shielded. I mean, there's no heat coming off there, but a minuscule amount of vibration is coming off those. It can tell you what's in there, how fast is it going, what is it oil, is it water, what is it inside of this pipeline based on the friction it's giving off of the speed that it's going, because different things give different speed of friction
And the wells
and
aren't burning, so there's got to be some technology that prevents.
yes,
Yeah,
yep. Yeah, because
interesting.
they basically they're not burning gas off from the oil wells. It's some other kind of gas.
I see. Okay. So the other book, the new book, I should say,
Cobalt.
Cobalt, um, brings us to a different set of scenarios, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
It's
how
on the
do I?
bottom. It's down there on the
Oh, I
bottom.
got to scroll down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
because I didn't want to do the same thing, and I didn't want to do another book about Middle East terrorists.
uh huh.
I think most of those have been written. Um, so I want to do something unique that and not use the same technology, leverage the same technology, but in a totally new circumstance or totally new story or dilemma that's occurring right now.
So you took current technology and you said you advanced it a little bit. In other words, you envisioned
Mhm.
what could be down the pike technology wise. How did you get
Yes.
the inspiration for that?
Uh, I'd like to do a lot of research. I'm like, oh, if I did satellite imagery, what would I wanted to do? Like, and I've developed software before. I have a background in technology,
Uh,
So I said, okay, I want to maximize my real estate on my screen. So if I have a left fly out, what do I want it to do? If I have a right fly out, what do I want it to do? What kind of capabilities do I want to put in that software? And
mhm.
that's what I've done with Toth,
I see.
which is the god of knowledge in Egypt. So that's why it's called Toth.
Gotcha. So, in addition to being an author in your post-military career, you do some public speaking as well.
I've done public speaking. Yes, as a matter of fact, I was on the 9th of September 2001. I flew to Berlin to speak at a conference.
Wow.
And then, of course, the whole 9/11 thing started. And my wife's German. So luckily, I had planned my vacation flying back on the 15th, which is the first day they actually started flying back into the
Right.
United States. So I went to spend some time with my brother-in-law. So yeah, I spoke in conferences in Las Vegas and Berlin, Orlando, a lot of different places on technology that I was very proficient in.
So the companies, what do they hire you to speak to their employees, or how does that work?
I, I was actually an employee of a company, so I would speak at their conferences,
Mhm.
or a company would have a conference. I would speak at it. They'd ask me to go speak at it. I think my first one was in Tucson. I spoke at a conference, more of a technology user group, or about something like that.
Interesting. By the
Mhm.
way, this podcast, unless something goes drastically wrong, should come out on September 11th, uh,
Oh, awesome!
which, as we're recording, is the Monday coming. So,
Excellent.
yeah. So, do you have any plans for? Well, I'll ask you what I ask a lot of authors that I talk
Mhm.
to. Um, do you envision a movie when you're writing? Like, do you envision this as a screenplay as you're writing?
So when I did Flames of Deception, when I talk about the book with people, they go, "Oh, that would be a great movie."
Hmm.
Right? Because it's very unique. It's not a rehash of anything. And I think that's what people find in the book is like, oh, I've never even a story around what you wrote. I've never even heard of that before. You know, right? Um, and I thought, well, maybe I could write a screenplay. And I'm like, oh, maybe I probably can't. You know, so yeah, you do it because I envision what I'm writing. I want to see it in my mind
Right. That's what
and
I was
try to
getting
add as
at.
much
Yeah.
detail as I can when
Hmm.
I write because I want you to be able to visualize. Are they riding on a C-17 aircraft? Are they in the oil fields? What's around them on the oil fields? What does it look like?
Hmm.
Because if you know nothing about the technology that I put in there about the oil fields, I want you when you read the book, you'll have a grasp of okay, what's the oil field look like? There's
Right.
probably 3 to 5 tanks. There's a burn off flare stack. There's a pump jack.
Right.
When does the flare stack use? When do they don't? What's in the tanks? And all this different stuff.
So it's and even what it smells like, right? You can describe
Yeah.
that, and yeah. So
Yeah, it
that's
smells like
interesting.
money. It smells like money.
Yeah, to the
As my
people who
dad
own
told
it,
me.
sure, absolutely.
I put that in the book. One of the characters says, "Man, this stinks," and he goes, "No." I remember my dad. We were driving out to West Texas, stopped in Odessa or Midland, and I said, "Man, Dad, that stinks." He goes, "Nope, son, that's the smell of money." And I put that in the book.
Probably smells better than actual money. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably does after now.
So, do you have plans for a third book? Is this
I am.
are
I'm
these
about
characters? Are you going to employ the same group of
yes,
characters? Okay.
yeah. So I'm writing a third book. I'm about 45,000 words into it, I guess, up to
Wow.
about 110, and then I also started another one today. That's this is a fictional World War II book that I'm writing.
Interesting.
None character. It's got a different. Um, I really one of my favorite authors was Clive Cussler,
Hmm.
uh, and I love his books. Robert Ludlum, Tom Clancy, Kyle
Hmm.
Mills. All those guys, great writers. I love to write stuff like that. So I'd kind of like do something different,
When you
and
say
so I
fictional,
started it today.
when you say fictional World War II, you mean like alternate history type?
Nothing based on some based on a little bit of fact,
Hmm.
but it's more of a um, what if this happened
Hmm.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's Mhm.
but it doesn't change the outcome of the war or anything.
No,
No.
no, no,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So I remember Newt Gingrich wrote a book, like an alternative Gettysburg book,
Right.
and I don't know, kind of bugged me.
Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, you could think about it like, what if, what if Hitler didn't exist, or what if the Hitler was really in the United States and we were the axis of evil and Germany was for the good, and how would that end up? And
Hmm.
you can write all sorts of stuff about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I even start maybe. I think I got some ideas for some other books in my head.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Well, both of these are available, as we discussed, right at authortravisdavis.com
and Amazon.com, and
and
yeah.
Amazon. I saw it on
Mhm.
Amazon and
And it's a
barnesandnoble.com too, right?
yeah, it's available. Hardcover, softcover, ebook, audiobook,
Yeah,
every type of
so
format
one
you can
one of
think.
these two is available on Kindle. I know a lot of people read the
They both
Kindle.
are.
They
They
both
both
are.
are.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, so I should also talk because you do have a YouTube channel,
Hmm.
which you're doing basically what I do. It's what I'm doing
Right.
right now, which is interview authors
Yes.
and discuss, because you did go outside of your genre with some of the guests. I was able to
Oh
watch
yeah.
a few of them today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started writing in March of 2022, and I didn't know anything about writing or the publishing or anything, because it's there's a lot of stuff out there. And so I said, what a better way than to interview authors
Hmm.
and get their take on marketing, because marketing is really key to writing a book, right? You got to brand yourself. People got to know where to get your book and how to kind of market it. So you get a lot of ideas from people. So that's why I created my podcast called Author Ecke. And I
Okay.
interview, I just, had Kyle Mills on there from the Vince Flynn series. So I interview a lot of different authors, no genre that I won't talk about. I've had kid books on there, uh, fiction, nonfiction, historical fiction, because I like to promote, help authors promote themselves. But
Hmm.
then I get a little bit of nugget of information every time I talk to somebody, and I want to be able to put that back out to whoever, I'm thinking about writing a book, but maybe I shouldn't, just sit down and start writing one and see where it goes.
Right, writers and aspiring writers. Someone,
Exactly.
you might
Exactly.
inspire someone to start the book they've always been wanting to write.
Yeah, and
Um,
things to kind of steer away from.
yeah, talk a little bit about the marketing. Are you self-publisher?
No, I have a publisher, Defiance
Okay,
Press.
okay.
They're out of Conroe, Texas, which is north of Dallas or north
Hmm.
of Houston. Um, so Mark, and this is, I think, true for all publishers, is they do a certain amount, but you really got to get it out there, from a social media perspective, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X. Go out and promote the brand or the book to be able to get a following.
Hmm.
Book signings. I do book signings in Kroger here in the Texas area, because it gets the book out to people that would not know anything about it or not even know about it. And then I get feedback from those individuals also in real time, right? Um, and I'm doing a book signing in Virginia, because every place in my book is real. So if I mention a hotel, you can go to that hotel. Um, so there's a brewery. My son lives in Manassas, Virginia.
Hmm.
So there is a book or a brewery called Eavesdrop Brewery. And we went there one day when I was finishing up Flames of Deception, and I just loved the place. I said, this is a place that would be great after mission to go and relax as a team. So I put it in the book.
Interesting.
The team gets done with their mission. They go to Eavesdrop Brewery and have a beer.
Do the folks in Eavesdrop Brewery know that?
Oh, yeah. I had book signings there. They love it. I
Oh,
told them
yeah,
I was going
cool.
to do it.
Yeah, sure. It's
Yeah.
free. It's
So,
free marketing for them as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the second book, Cobalt, they're in it. Third book,
Oh,
they're
there's
in it.
places in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm having another book signing there in October, the 14th in Manassas, Virginia at Eavesdrop Brewery. So, that helps to get it out. I
Right.
do, the podcast, or, little shorts on YouTube. And so there's a lot of different things you can do. And I don't think there's just any one thing, but I will tell you, you'll never fully realize how many people say they are book marketers, right? I mean, from all over, and like that's a lot of people. And I've never,
Well, what do you
go out and
mean?
try to,
What do you mean by book marketers? Like,
they'll, oh, I'll help you. I'll make your book famous. I'll help you market your book for
oh,
X amount of dollars. I'm
okay.
like, no, I don't think so. I do a lot of technology stuff. So the internet to me is, I get it, right? I can put
Yeah.
anything on a website I want and make you believe it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could tell you do have a good, you did design this website that we're looking at now.
Oh yeah, I did the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So
Yep.
you obviously know what you're doing.
Hmm.
Where did you learn that craft, in the military or?
No, not at all. I got out of the army and they go, say, what can I be as a Cav Scout? Nothing. Uh, maybe a policeman or something. But I was like, oh, I got out when I was 35 years old, and I said, okay, so and the technology always interested me, right? I mean, this is back, before Windows. This is the GeoWorks, if everybody ever remembers that. This is DOS way back, and always
Mhm.
interesting. When I got out of the army, I worked for a company. I said, I would like to take care of your network. They just started Windows uh, uh, server at the time, I think 3.5, 3.11, or 3.5 or something.
Wow. Yeah.
So they sent me to school, and I got certified on Microsoft technologies. And I've talked to a friend of mine. I said, oh, I'm looking for another job. And she goes, oh, so and so works at EDS, Electronic Data Systems, here in Plano. Give him a call. He went to high school with your brother. So I gave him a call. Oh yeah, I remember. I remember Les. Oh yeah, come on down. I'll give you an interview, right? So I got a job. So I started working in EDS as on the help desk, and I then got into the engineering group for consulting and architecture of Microsoft technologies. And then I just kind of took it from there. I started my own company. Works around the Salesforce.com
Hmm.
platform, and then started writing books. And now I retired in August. And in February, I started being a best monitor on a special education bus.
Mm.
Love it.
Yeah.
But that takes afternoon off. So
Yeah. Well, when you were doing the work for, as Windows was progressing and
Mhm.
you were doing that, did you always have in the back of your head, I feel like writing a book, or I have a book in me?
Well, I used to tech edit for Q Publishing, all their Microsoft technology books, MCSC books. So I
Oh, I
would tech
see.
edit all of those.
Uh-huh.
And then I helped write a chapter of a Windows 2000 security handbook on the Kerberos uh, security protocol. So that, yeah, but I never thought I'd write a fiction book
Hmm.
or even a short book, short story. So this is kind of new, and everybody was like, "Man, Travis, how many times have you reinvented yourself?" Right, and I think you have to do that to, keep young.
I agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
The when you first though, I want to get to where you first sat down and said, I'm going to write something that's
Okay,
been rolling around my head. I want to know what was the propulsion to actually get you to put pen to paper, or however
I
it.
I, th- I think ran the premise by a couple of people, Scott in particular, and then that next day I started writing the book.
Hmm.
And and everything just kind of flowed. It was coming to you, it flowed. And and my wife,
But did
she
you
is
have an
so
idea
supportive.
before you did that? I'm sorry. Did you have an
Yeah.
idea of what the
Oh
synopsis
yeah.
of the? Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I had it all read. I don't outline books. I just write them.
Hmm.
Called the Pantser. But yeah, my wife is so supportive in all my endeavors. She's, all my little crazy ideas. She's very supportive. She's like, okay, how much is this going to cost us? But, nothing. I'm writing a book. How much going to cost you? So yeah, so I just started putting pen to paper, typing, and I just I could see it, and it just kept on flowing. It
Hmm.
felt it felt like the story was continuing, and I had an alternate ending that I didn't use. I almost used. I may use it in another book, but then I did this, and then I started having the idea for Cobalt as this book was coming out. I was writing it. Then okay, now you have to market your writing here. There's a lot of different things
You're juggling a lot
going
of balls in the
on.
air at the same time.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
I guess I'm fairly decent at that. But yeah, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to sit down and plan to write a book. I just started writing the book, and it just happened
It just
because
flowed right
of
out
an
of you. Well,
idea. It just
that.
flowed.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you have somebody edit like
Oh
Flames of
yeah.
Deception? Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
Oh yeah. I
both?
have the publisher.
Oh, they do the
Publisher does
editing?
it.
Okay.
They do the editing, the formatting, the cover. I basically this is what I want the cover to look like, and then
I was
they
going to
okay
ask you
mock it
about
up
both
and
covers,
yeah,
actually. Who designed that? We're looking at Flames of this. For those who
yeah.
are listening to us, we're looking at his Flames of Deception book.
I designed the cover. They kind of refined it from a graphical perspective, but I told them like this is what I want on it. Then Cobalt, this is what I want. So I sent them a rough draft
Mhm.
of it, and then they got some fantastic artists and graphic designers at the
So
Defiance Press.
the team at the publishing house realized your vision of what the cover should look like.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and
this
I
one
sent a
here is
mock up.
the one we're looking at now is Cobalt, and that's a pretty cool book cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I sent them basically what I wanted to look like, and they kind of make it look real nice.
Mm-hmm. So, was there any anxiety in the editing when you give them the
Oh yeah,
script and they say we'll get back to you?
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean they do, and I mean there's a ton of edits. And there's still there's a few things in the book that probably are wrong or whatever, but I think that happens. But the editing process is long. I probably did more editing on the second book than the first book because I knew more about the process.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different revisions. Like I'll probably revise a book, like the one I'm writing. Revise it as I go. I'll start reading from the front, right, first part of the book, and I revise it as I go, and then you revise it a couple more times, get it back, the edit, and then it takes weeks to go through it, and then to get all that done. Okay, the edit's good. You send it back. They send it back right now. Look at it. So that this went back, I think, after the edits 5 times,
Wow.
right? Because I'd find something, say, okay, this is what I want, or what, and then okay, good. Let's go ahead and start publishing.
So they don't like chop things
Oh, they
down.
will.
They will.
Oh, they
Yeah.
will. Oh, the editor will. Oh, yeah, because
Do they ever
and
give
that's their
you?
job.
Well, it is, but it can be vicious sometimes to the author.
It can be. It can be.
Do they ever explain why they take things out if they do?
Oh, yeah. It'll
Yeah.
say, okay, it doesn't flow, or makes better to maybe put here, or you already explained it somewhere else, don't have to explain it again, type thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I look at it as professional, constructive criticism,
Mhm.
right? I'm always for the notion of I don't fix cars. I like cars, but I hire somebody to fix cars or
Yeah.
plumbing, right? Because everybody
Yeah.
has a specialty. That's why you hire people,
Right.
and they've got a great editing crew. The marketing crew is real good at Defiance Press. The whole and when I was going through and looking at publishers, I was like, okay, I thought about self publishing, but I don't know anything about it, so anything. So I didn't want to do that. So I started looking at publishers, and I found these guys. I sent my book, the manuscript into them. They liked it, got a hold of them, talked. But I said, you know what? I said, I gotta meet you guys. I mean, in person. I gotta,
Mhm.
touchy feely thing. So I was did some work in Houston. On the way home, I stopped and said, okay, let's set up for 4:30. I'll be in your office. Boom. I went there, and I've always passed this place going back and forth to Houston. I go, man, that's a beautiful building. I
Oh,
want like the
they're
whole
right
thing.
near where you live. Okay.
Well, they're a couple 3 or 4 hours, but I was
Oh,
going
okay.
home. I was driving back home after spending a couple days in Houston. And I always drove by this place. Oh, I love the architecture. Bigger than Stuttgart. That was their building. So
Mm.
went in there. I met Dave and Mark and everybody, and I really liked them. And so I did this, Flames of Deception through them, do Cobalt through them, and so we'll see about the third book.
Yeah. Well, talking about the publisher, I have said this in previous podcasts with other authors. As we discussed, you can go right to authortravisdavis.com and purchase the book, or Amazon or Barnes and Noble. But you can also go to your local bookseller and say, "I'd like it. I'd like this book," because then
Yes.
they'll order it from your publisher,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always it's good for the local bookseller, and it's good for the publisher and the author.
Yeah,
You
I
just
agree. I hope
request the
these
book right
indie
at your
bookstores. Yeah,
yeah. Just request the book right in your hometown. And
it's great. I went to the library today here in town. They had my books, so I
that's
signed them. So I signed them.
that's got to be cool. Yeah, yeah. So
It was good.
you don't have do you have a working title for your next book? it sounds like
I
you're
have a
pretty
couple.
prolific, Travis.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah,
couple
yeah,
titles. I
yeah.
haven't decided. This has pretty cool technology in it, though. Pretty cool stuff.
The one you're coming out
Um,
with, yeah.
mhm.
Because
And
I
my goal is to have that done. I would think December, January.
okay,
To the publisher, uh, and then we'll September, release date or something like that.
very cool.
That's right. I
So
plan on doing one a year.
yeah, well, so far you're doing good. You had one last
I
year, you
don't
got one
know.
this year,
I'm a late
and
bloomer.
how are the sales so far?
They're good. I mean,
Yeah.
they could be better, but
Hmm.
people don't know me, so these
Hmm.
help out. I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Oh,
So
it's a
this helps, but
pleasure
it
to have
hasn't
you.
it hasn't been too bad. I get good reviews of the books.
Hmm.
People like them. I work with a guy that read Flames of Deception, and he said, "Oh, you write a lot like David Morrell
Hmm.
from." He goes, "Your writing style is very much like him." And then another guy that I work, he goes, he bought some for his dad. He said, my dad couldn't put the book down. He goes, I started reading Flames of Deception. He said, I just could not put the book down.
Hmm.
And now he's starting reading Cobalt.
Right.
Uh, and I try to make it where they're, kind of a roller coaster, but it gets you set the book up really well and then kind of go through the end.
So, what I was saying, I'm sorry about that interruption, Travis, but what I was saying was the best thing about this is once you get hooked on one of your earlier books, like you started with Flames of Deception, a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
characters you brought forth to Cobalt, and you're bringing some of those characters into the book you're working on now, correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
I would recommend to our listeners if you want to get into Travis Davis's work. Start with Flames of Deception. The characters will move forward into Cobalt, and then you'll be eagerly awaiting his next book, which he is hoping to come out with in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Yes, that's correct.
again, I do appreciate you coming on, Travis,
Well, thank
and
you.
I can admit now that we're at the end of this that I haven't read either book, but I'm going to.
Okay.
And what I'd like to ask, if when you're ready to come out with the next book, work in progress, title in progress, come back on, and I'll be intimately familiar with the characters, and
Okay.
I, like everybody else, will be eagerly awaiting what happens to them in the next book you got coming.
And I'll tell you the title when I come out with it.
Yeah,
You'll be one
cool.
of the first.
I hope so. I hope so. All right, so we were discussing Flames of Deception and Cobalt: The Rise and Fall of the Great Reset, both by Travis Davis, and I highly recommend you visit authortravisdavis.com and check these guys out. And again, thank you for your service, sir, and thanks for being a guest on the Gritty Hour.
Well, thank you, sir, and have a great day. And I really appreciate it. And folks, go out there and get the book and tell me how you like it.
Yes, it was definitely our pleasure. So
Thank you.
you take care of yourself, and we'll see you further on up the road, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.